Welcome to MTM Travel. I'm less than 24 hours out from my trip to Alani, and I've never been so excited to go to Hawaii, Mark. I don't know why.
I mean, aren't you always excited to go to Hawaii? I feel like that's your number one place. So you're more excited for this just because it's Aluani versus just being going to Hawaii?
I think so. I mean, it's been a place I've wanted to go forever. I think once you go to a place that's been on your list for a long time, and it's Disney and Hawaii, and I'm going with my best friend. So it's kind of a cool trip in that way as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But I thought about this, and this is going to backfire on me tremendously on YouTube and in the comments. But this is our ninth trip to Hawaii in 10 years. How blessed are we with miles and points? All of them done with miles and points. This was always my wife's dream destination, the place she always dreamed of going. I was able to take her for the first time in 2013 using miles and points, and we're doing this, and so incredible and so humbled by that. So, as you say, it is my favorite, but also just humbled by the opportunities that we've had.
Yeah, I think that's what's cool. I mean, growing up, if you went to Hawaii, that was like for wealthy people. Like nobody ever thought. I never thought I'd go to Hawaii. It just was like kind of like those far places. Didn't ever think I'd go to Europe or Asia or anything like that. Just felt like okay, travel around the U.S., go to Florida once a year, that type of stuff. Maybe go to Mexico, go to Canada. Hit the Caribbean. That was kind of like the world as I saw it that we would venture out into. So it's just amazing how much it does open up when you can do it. You can go to Hawaii for $11 if you play it right. The flight is covered by miles and points. You pay $11 in taxes and fees per person. Hotels can be covered by miles and points. Even like food, if you eat on property and stuff, can be covered by credit card points or perks or all that stuff. So you can do it as cheap as you want or as expensive as you want. I mean, if you have to rent a car, that definitely adds to it. But are you going to be spending any time in Waikiki?
Yeah, we're doing 2 nights at the Hyatt Regency at the end. So it's a full week there, 5 nights at Alani, and then 2 nights at the Hyatt Regency. The other thing that's really interesting about this is, like you say, going on a budget and doing it for cheap, but we don't have to do that on miles and points. So not only if I was paying cash, maybe I would have taken one trip to Hawaii, but now that I use miles and points, I can go many times, and we're staying at nicer places, lounge access when we go to Hyatt, things like that. So it's always a different experience and better in that way. So yeah, truly grateful for what the hobby has given us and opened up the doors for this. There are a few things I'm interested in doing and excited to do. I haven't been to Oahu in quite a long time, about 10 years, and I've only been there once other than connecting through Honolulu Airport. So there's a lot to do there. My friend's first trip to Hawaii, seeing Diamond Head again. I've only been on Waikiki a bit. So I feel like there's a lot. The North Shore I've never been to, so I'm going to do
Yeah.
that as well. And even with, you talk about saving with miles and points, even with rental cars, just knowing corporate codes that I'm eligible for and work for me. During COVID, when rentals were like hundreds of dollars a day, I was paying $30 a day for rentals. It's not quite as good anymore because they changed the codes up a bit, but still saving a decent amount on that. So no matter how you play the game, every angle you can attack this and do what you want.
I was just going to ask if you've been to North Shore because that's the one place I'd want to check out if I went back there. Waikiki just didn't do it for me. It felt like Florida. It did. It just didn't feel like Hawaii. It didn't feel special. It felt crowded. Just kind of cramped and people everywhere. It just felt like I'm in Fort Lauderdale or Miami, something like that. It just didn't feel pristine like Maui does. Gives you some of that in bits and pieces, and I think North Shore gives you a lot of that. I haven't been there personally, but that's what I've heard, and I really want to check that out. And of course, forgetting Sarah Marshall, filmed at a resort up there, which you definitely got to go check out.
Yeah, we're going to do that. We're definitely going to the resort where with the Turtle Bay, is that what it's called?
Yeah,
Something like
I
that.
think so.
Yeah, so we're gonna go do that, and we'll report back next week. I'll talk all about my Hawaii trip next week, what Alani was like, what we did, all of that fun stuff. So can't wait to report back on all of that. But you have some trip planning. I mean, it's 2025, and there's a lot of trips ahead. It's one of those times of the. I guess it's. I've said this before, but a lot of people already have their whole year planned out. I don't.
Yeah.
I never do. So I'm always in a different phase of planning than you and everybody else. But yeah, what do you? What sort of headaches do you have this week to report back?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a little bit last episode, and I had my family over last weekend. Were doing Christmas, and I've been wanting to take my kids to some Christmas markets or something. And Thanksgiving's always a good time to travel for international travel out of the US because a lot of people stay home. They want to celebrate Thanksgiving with their family. And of course, Thanksgiving, and it's funny. Do you ever notice this? You're like, oh, will everything be open on 4th of July? Well, if you're in England or Paris, they don't care about 4th of July and they don't care about Thanksgiving. Like it's all different stuff. But then you also get caught up maybe in their Independence Day or their version of Thanksgiving or whatever celebration they have, and you don't realize it. And then everything's closed when you're visiting. So it's funny how that works out. Like it doesn't quite compute with you. But if you are going to travel internationally, American holidays are the best time to do it because a lot of people want to stay home and you can go there, less crowds there from tourists, as well as, you get that day off of work already. So you don't have to take the extra day off. Some people already have Friday off, Thursday and Friday. So it kind of works out well. So was talking to them like, hey, do you guys want to go if I try to make it cheap with miles and points? And they're like, yeah, okay, let's talk to everybody. And I start searching and I told you I found stuff and it seemed like it would work out, but I didn't know if I would cannibalize certain things. And, I booked the flights home. So was going to book with Air France, but then they devalued like the night before I found the stuff and it was ready to book in the morning. That morning, devaluation. So that sucked. So I ended up going with Virgin, booking the economy flights from Paris to Detroit. I think it was 48,000 miles for the four of us, so 12K a piece, and then like $230 or something around that range per person in taxes and fees. So like 900 and some dollars out of pockets. I'll wipe that off with Capital One rewards. But not the greatest redemption, but I thought that was like a solid start. So we're starting off on the right foot.
That's good. It's funny when you're traveling on holidays. Your story reminded me of the first, when we were backpacking. We were arriving in Australia. We were flying from New Zealand to Australia on Christmas Day, and I remember like scouring the internet. And this is back in 2007, so there's less information. But scouring the internet, is anything going to be open in Melbourne on Christmas Day? Like just freaked out. Like all the restaurants would be closed, everything else. And I remember just getting to Melbourne and people said, yeah, there'll be things open, just like there would be here, right? It's a dumb
Yeah.
thing. It's so funny how you
There's
kind of
always
lose
Chinese
all
restaurants.
perspective. There was, well, in Melbourne is such a international city, and there's so many immigrants and everything else. There was some stuff closed, but I mean, just packed. The whole city was packed on Christmas Day. Almost everything was open. It was like a vibrant. It was the complete opposite of what I expected. So sometimes you kind of build these things up to understand that even in the worst case scenario. Now, I mean, you go to some small town in Italy on a Sunday morning or something. I mean, everything's going to be closed, but yeah, for the most part, it's okay. No matter what day it is, it's okay.
Yeah, we did something similar on Christmas this year. We're like, hey, for dinner, we didn't have family in town at the time. It just we did her family before and my family after. So we're like, all right, let's make it easy. Go get some Chinese food, and it was like impossible. It was one place had like a 3 hour wait to get food. We had to wait an hour at the one place we did find, and it was kind of just crazy, like unexpected how busy it is. And I know there's a big Jewish population around here, so that's kind of like their day to go out and enjoy it. So we're kind of creeping in on their style and everything. And but there's also Indian restaurants that are open, and there was a lot more stuff open, and they were all busy, which I found interesting, unexpected. First time we've ever tried it. Maybe it's always been that way, but yeah. So I got that booked, feeling okay. And then we talked about last time, like cannibalizing things for my parents and my sister and her family. Like I found awards to their respective airports going home, but they were all on like the same initial flight. So I'm like, all right, I haven't even gotten to that point yet. I'm just booking us on the way out. So I'm using American Airlines miles. I search for find four flights out of Detroit connecting. Well, we'd fly to LaGuardia and then have to transfer over to JFK, and then JFK to London, and it was like 60K per
I
person.
need to stop you there. You are the king of transferring in New York airports. In my
I
life, I
hate it.
have never transferred from one airport in New York to the other, and you just did
I've
it, and
done
now
it to
you.
all of them, to all of them. I've done the round robin. I've gone LaGuardia to JFK, JFK to Newark. It's just been terrible. But no, like for whatever reason, we don't have a lot of flights into JFK. I think Delta's the main one. Of course, LaGuardia is big for American, so that's Detroit to LaGuardia is the one that always has space. To JFK, Delta can be hit or miss. It can be cheaper. It can be super expensive. And with it being the night before Thanksgiving or the day before Thanksgiving, everything's kind of expensive. But I found the 60K. I was like, all right, that's pretty good. 60K, the $5.60, taxes and fees per person. Did the search for four. Four seats were showing. Okay, cool. I had 120,000 miles in my wife's account. So I'm like, perfect. I think it was like 121,000. I'll book 2 with her miles. I'll book the rest with my miles. We'll bankrupt her account. I don't like her having stuff in her account. I like it all in mine anyway. So I'm like, all right, they'll use that up. So I do that, book her and my daughter. Then I go back to book mine, and of course, the price is now 95,000.
Yeah, that is a trick with these variable pricing schemes that didn't exist before, where I guess it's the same on like a regular price ticket. You could, there might be one available at that price, but you're searching for four, so they just give you all at the higher price. So yeah, that's interesting. I haven't actually heard of that happening where it raised the price. So the award space didn't go away; it just went up, which is nuts.
Yeah, it's annoying. And the sad thing is I have the business card, the American Airlines business card, and we talked about this I think on 20-minute travel, where if you sign up for the new one, you get the business account, the miles go there, you can add employees and all that stuff, and you can transfer the miles out that way to other people for free. So I could transfer to her. I just didn't have enough in that account to cover those two tickets, plus like I didn't have an extra 120,000 sitting there. I think I had like around 90K or something like that. So if I could have done that, that would have been a workaround that we could have moved the miles over there and done the booking. But then, okay, so I'm annoyed and I'm thinking, this is just because I've been searching it and booked it. Give it a couple days, come back. I come back a couple days later, still high. I think it went even higher. Went to like 110K. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm looking at premium economy for 45K, and I'm like, all right, maybe I should just home alone them, where the parents get the two good seats. We give them premium economy. I could pick like the last two seats of business. They could be the first two seats of premium economy. Be steps away. Wouldn't be a big deal. Kicking that around. Have you ever done that, where you stick your son in the back?
I have done it with my son as he got older. I think your kids are at the age where I would be okay doing it. We've talked, at some point with Ellie. I would want her to be a little older. Charlotte's almost 2 years older than Ellie, so yeah, I feel like I would do it. I don't. These kids need to learn how to fly in the back, Mark. These kids are our kids are
My daughter,
spoiled.
my daughter gave me the riot act. Like, no, you can sit in the back. I'll sit up there. She's only been in the seat once on the way to Hawaii, but she's like obsessed with it now. So she knows what comes with it. I'm like, yeah, but premium economy is still, it's like a first class seat in the US. You have the little footstool. I think it'll be fine. Like, it'll be comfortable. You'll have all of that. And she's like, giving me crap. I asked my son. He's like, yeah, whatever. I don't care. That's fine. I just don't want to sit next to Charlotte. So we're that, we're going back and forth on that stuff. So I'm like, okay, light goes off. I'm like, let me just search JFK to London, see if that comes up. And it does. It comes up at 59K a person. So the issue is the Detroit to JFK. That's where the thing fell through. I look at that and just economy on that little flight or into LaGuardia. Detroit to LaGuardia is now 22,000 in economy per person. I'm like, that's ridiculous. But maybe I'll just book this JFK to London portion. Try to figure that out later. We have plenty of time, and almost 10 months. It's like something will probably pop. Hopefully, it is. Around Thanksgiving, so there's risk there that it doesn't. I could always do Spirit, I guess, and we could fly separate on the first flight. So I go to book that, and I'm on the page to go pay. Click pay, or I get to the pay screen, and then I click it again. And it goes, that pops up where there's an airplane. Oh, this page seems to have flown away. You ever
Why
gotten
is it
that?
always American Airlines? Like, why is it always American Airlines?
I'm like, what the hell is this? This is bullcrap. So I go back, and now it's 110K from JFK to London. I'm like, there's no way somebody swooped in and booked that stuff. Like, come on. What are the chances that somebody did it in the 2 minutes that I was going in between? So that's annoying. I find that crabby. So I'm like, whatever. I'm gonna go back and book the Detroit in premium economy. At least have that saved. If something comes up, like if space and business comes up later over the 10 months, I'll just rebook it, cancel and rebook. It's free to cancel. Go back. Now it's like 100,000 for that in premium economy. Everything's all messed up. And I think it's all me clicking around trying to book stuff that did it.
That's hilarious. You've just driven up the price on yourself over and
They're like,
over.
well, look how popular this route is. I'm like, all I did was try to book it twice. I don't know. It's so
Makes
annoying.
you miss
That's
the
why
old days of the
huh?
like award charts.
Yeah. Yeah. Where you just know it's like locked in, whatever. I don't know. This is why I hate planning trips, especially when you're talking about a big group of people, because you kind of are locked in. Like, you can't be nimble with it. Like, when I was searching, there was a flight from JFK to Milan, and then Milan to to London, which isn't good, but it was at the saver rate. And I was like, crap. If I didn't talk my family into this, I'd be like, let's go to Milan and do northern Italy, and then go in, go to take the train up to Switzerland, do the Christmas markets there. That'd be cool. Like, we could be flexible. But since I talked this up and kind of found somewhat decent stuff for them that I haven't booked, and I'm sure it's going to fall all into shambles as I go to book it. I'm like, okay, we're kind of stuck there. So now we could have shifted to flying out on Thanksgiving Day. There's saver space for 4 there. Who knows what would happen if when I go to book it, or the day before, all this stuff. And it's just like you lose flexibility when you're doing it with a group, and that's why it gets even more frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that's an interesting conversation because we're all traveling a lot in this hobby. We travel a lot. We have our own ways of doing things, and then you're bringing other people into that. And a lot of times we're more flexible, like you say. We are more inspiration. Like, oh, Milan's available. Okay, let's just go to Milan, do this and this and this, and then you can't do that. And people can crimp your style when traveling as well. What you're used to. I know my wife and I have traveled so much together and with our family and everything. We have our own thing. It's just a very well-worn way of traveling, and it can get broken up with other people. But you do also get the benefit of that. Some of my favorite memories, the trip a few years ago where I took my dad to Scotland, the UK, and Paris, one of the most stressful things of my entire life. But I'm glad I did it. I mean, I'm glad he got the experience and that my kids got to do it with him and that we were able to do it. But the entire time, it was just nerve-wracking planning it and everything else. So yeah, you get the good with the bad.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to like the niece and nephew being with my kids, experiencing all this together. They're at like the perfect age. They'll be, 14 and 12. The boys 14, the girls 12. So it was like they'll remember it for their life, and it's something that they wouldn't be able to do, and just kind of cool. Like right before they go into high school, or my nephew will actually be a freshman in high school that year. So it's just like it lines up perfectly that I really want to do it, but I'm hating myself. And that's why it's so much easier when you're like the trip to Singapore and Thailand that I just got back from. Met up there with 3 other travel hackers. So simple. Like everybody's like, all right, we're gonna be there at this date. That's what we're gonna shoot for, and everybody finds their own way there. And it's just so much better.
Yeah, it's great. And then travel hackers too, they can come and go. There's trips where people will be there for a couple of days. It's just a lot easier to work with travel hackers, I feel like, because they think about it all more flexibly and they're not relying on you, as you
Yeah.
say, to do it for them, which is never good. Our planning is a little weird. Spring break we have this year in March. People know last year I made that last minute trip. I've been eyeing Central America. I think I mentioned it briefly, but I've been eyeing either Panama, going back to Guatemala, sometimes Colombia, Peru, all these different places. The good news is, and people are like, it's 2 months out. What the heck are you doing? I've been continually searching. There's plenty of award space for what I need. It's really neat that this year, my daughter and my birthday is a week apart. And my birthday's on a Sunday and hers is on a Sunday. And that's the week of her spring break. So we get to actually take a birthday trip. So not quite sure where in Central, somewhere that they speak Spanish, I guess, is where we're going.
If you go to Guatemala, you got to go to the place without the toilet seat and relive it.
Yeah, the what was it? The Hotel Shalom, I think it was in
Oh,
Quetzaltenango. Yeah, good old days. My son's 7th birthday. I'll try to put a link in the description if you want to read all about
yeah,
that. One of the
explosive day.
worst food poisoning I've ever had in my life to this
Yeah.
day. What's great though, as after like a couple months of backpacking through Guatemala at that time, my stomach was so strong that I never got food poisoning anywhere else the rest of that trip. Everywhere else I went, because I had, every day at lunch was a new surprise, and after a few weeks, you just get used to it.
Yeah, I know. And Colombia, funny you say that. Like Colombia has been one that I've been. Peru too. Those two have been like the easiest thing to find award space. I noticed when I was trying to find my flights down to Rio for Carnival, which is one that I'm looking forward to at the end of February. That's one of my trips that I'm most curious about going into this year. But I was just trying to find like a place down there, maybe spend a night in a different country, and then fly my way over to Rio. And I could consistently found either on Alaska into Peru in business for, 25, 30K, something like that, or 25K on American through Dallas down to Colombia. And it was like Oh, okay, you want to go here? Pick a date. Like it was always available, which was kind of crazy.
Yeah, and so it's actually a problem for me here because I'm trying to figure out where we want to go. I'm talking with the family, and basically the options for these places are pretty limitless. I mean, there's enough space where I'm not really worrying, and there's a lot of flight options, and it's a debate. Like Peru, I haven't been there. I have been to Colombia, Medellin, one of my favorite cities. Bogota has changed so much. I do want to do Cartagena. I've been to Panama, but my family hasn't. Guatemala, we spent months there, like I said, and we would like to revisit. We haven't been back since we backpacked through there. So there's like legitimate reasons to go everywhere, but it's only a week, so we have to figure that out. And last year I did Europe in a week, which was a lot. We paid for it with jet lag, stuff like that. So at least this will keep us in somewhat similar time zones, so the adjustment back won't be too bad. And yeah, I'm super looking forward to it. It's so cool that we get to celebrate both of our birthdays on the week, and we don't have to like take her out of school or anything. So yeah, because we're already in trouble this week with Hawaii. Let's just put it that way.
You got the nasty grams. So you get the nasty grams from school. She's missed so many days already.
Well, I have to work, Mark. I mean, I do this for work, so going to Hawaii is a work trip.
Yeah. No, we got that. I forget what it was, but most of the time it was they were off for COVID, and then I think it was when I took them out of school for a day to go to drive to Chicago to do that big bank bonus. It was like $1,500 for the Wells Fargo checking bonus, and then we spent the weekend in Chicago, and it was just the three of us. It was a really great trip, and we enjoyed it so much. That's when I took her to American Girl doll store and had lunch with her doll there and everything, and we did like a river cruise, the architecture cruise and stuff, and it was just a lot of fun. But I got the nasty gram because they've already missed 7 days. I'm like, well, they had COVID for 5 of them. Like, what do you want me to do about this? This is just one day, and it just rubbed me the wrong way. And that's one thing. Like with COVID, they can't really do anything about it. Where before they might have been able to be more strict on it, but they have to have more leniency now. So that's kind of your workaround, I guess. I don't know, but the principal this year took her kids to Florida for like 3 days during school and missed. So I'm like, you have no ground to stand on if you come at me.
Yeah, the world has changed since my son was little, and they didn't really care as much. And my daughter hasn't missed a single day of school outside of our trip to Orlando, and we're doing this. So these are the days she'll miss this entire year. Hopefully, she doesn't get sick or anything like that. I don't think they're too happy, but we're getting her work, so we're not trying to lie about it and that sort of stuff, so that we can at least get her work. She's not missing anything. She comes back normal, and she gets to travel with dad. And this, I mean, it's funny because we talk about this. We love travel. I like travel. I like going to Hawaii, but it is still work. I will be working. I'll be recording there, talking about it, sharing the stuff, filming video, and she can't stay behind. So sometimes we got to take a trip, and the little girl gets to come with us. So lucky her.
Yeah, and I think they need to like look at it if if the kid is doing well in school, like getting good grades and understands everything and is still doing the work while they're traveling, they're getting experiences that they might not get otherwise, and that has value. And then I know you did homeschooling with your son for a while, and you kind of know this, but it's funny whenever you talk to like kids that homeschool, they're done with all their work in like 2 hours. So a lot of school is filler. I don't. There's teachers out there that are probably going to be mad at me right now, but a lot of school is filler, social aspect, or and that's important skills to learn. But the actual school part, I feel like it could be done a lot quicker.
I agree. We've homeschooled. We figured all that out, and yeah, I've been talking. I don't want to talk about this publicly, but what the hell not? I've been talking with my wife again about. So my daughter is in fourth grade, and we're trying to get her into this charter school for fifth grade. If not, she's going to go somewhere else for middle school. But if she doesn't get accepted into that, I'm flirting with the idea of taking her out for the second half of fourth grade and taking a few months to travel with her. We did something similar with my son when he was, I think, in sixth grade. We took him out for one semester. But I think in this case, we would do it because she would already do it before switching schools. Uh, the one thing is she would miss, like, if she stayed at her current school for fifth grade, she would miss the fifth grade trip, which she's not happy about. But uh, yeah, I think it would be fun. You know me, I'm always coming up with these crazy ideas. This wouldn't be like we did last time where we're gone most of the time. It'd just be a few months. So basically, like missing a semester and then making sure she gets all the work done, and then she would go into middle school and do all of that. But there's so many places I want to take her, and yeah, it's just difficult with the schedule and everything else. So I've been flirting with that. We'll see how that develops through the years, but I guess I'm the only one who ever thinks like this. I really do think I'm out on an island over here in these types
Somewhat,
of things.
somewhat. I
Shout
mean,
out to Marsha and the Diamond Group. Her and I are kindred spirits on that.
I just can't teach my kids. Like maybe Jasmine's really good at this. My kids don't respond to me in that way, and maybe Kirsten will be better. But we get so frustrated with them, and they get frustrated with us that it's just better. And they act differently if it's a teacher versus a parent teaching them. So I think that's give and take. But you have that experience, one with your son and somewhat with her a little bit. So I think that helps you guys a lot, and you know what you're getting into. And other people are probably just nervous about that, like can I handle this or whatever? And there's probably enough online courses and things like that these days that make it a lot easier. But I just have no interest in that portion of the whole thing.
No, it can be bad. I mean, it can be rough. My son wasn't as bad. My daughter was challenging at times. My wife did it for the most part. I don't know how people homeschool their kids at home. I mean, that's a thing that I don't even understand as far as doing it every single day. We've only done it while traveling. I mean, I guess while traveling, it is more stressful, right? The kids are tired. You're doing things constantly, and you're going to get a lot more backlash. Anybody who's been a parent knows when a kid gets tired, that's the end of the line. I mean, you have to deal with, them just not being kind sometimes, or just lashing out, or just throwing temper tantrums, especially when she was a little bit smaller. So there's a lot of challenges there. Family travel is challenging, but it's so cool. And when they get to this age where they're going to remember it, where they've developed their personality, to your point, like Charlotte saying, I want to sit in the business class seat. That's a development of personality. That's a memorable experience. This is something that she's going to carry with her going into
Yeah.
adulthood. It's not something, when they're 5 or 6, not quite the case.
I told her that I already ruined her husband for her. Like, there's, well, when I was a child, this is what same for you. Like, I'm like, you better find somebody that's either into miles and points or willing to learn because you're not going to be getting the same type of treatment that you are. Where I think Connor will be into it somewhat. He definitely loves travel, so I could see him being more backpacker type though. But I think he'll be interested in it, or at least do it as a necessary evil, knowing that if he wants to continue to see things, then he's gotta jump into this whole game. But yeah, I think that's the struggle we have is you only get 18 years with them, really. I mean, yeah, you can do some stuff during while they're in college, but they're going to have internships or friends they want to go on trips with and stuff. You only have like 17 or 18 years of undivided attention, and even less so towards the end of that. But you have to make hay while you can.
Yeah, and traveling is great for families because you're spending time together. I mean, there are the downsides. Kids get cranky, you get tired, all of that stuff. But that time, whether you're on a few day trip, like you talked about your trip to Chicago, you're on a 1 week vacation, or you're traveling for months with your kids, you are spending time with them in a way that oftentimes at home you're not, just because everybody's doing their own thing, or you're certainly not getting as much of that time. So you do get that dynamic, and it does allow you as a parent to be closer to them and to travel is fulfilling in a very deep way for everybody. And we pick trips and we go places based on how we think they'll fulfill us. But there's something truly special when you're getting the fulfillment and you're watching your child get it at the same time, or you're watching this wonder and awe. And then as they get older, they start to see things in history books, they learn about things in school, and then to be able to present that to them in real life, like, here is the thing you learned about, but this is the real deal. It's amazing because I grew up my whole life thinking I would never visit these places or see these things. I remember watching The Beach years ago. This was before I ever tried, just a couple years before I
And then you
backpacked to
get
Thailand.
you get ruined when you see it in real life and realize it's not that good.
Yeah, well, when I saw it in real life, it was still not that bad because it hadn't been overrun too much yet. But anyway, the point was, I remember him being in that hostel in Bangkok, which was just, a terrible hostel in Bangkok, but just Bangkok itself being so out there, a place I would never be able to go, so exotic. And
Yeah.
obviously, we talked about you recently being there. I've been there a bunch. It's just amazing how the world changes and how fulfilling that can be. And then to program, and I say program, but to install that in your kid, however it works for them, because they're going to love what they love. You're not going to be able to force them into that. But when they start saying, oh, I want to go here to do this, you start to see how it all translates. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, we talked about going to the road that he walks down as he gets off the plane in the beginning, and everybody was like, "We're too old for that. We can't go over there."
Yeah, Khao San Road or Koh San Road, where all the backpackers are. We did Songkran Festival on that road. That's the Thai water festival where everybody goes around spraying water on everybody, dumping water on everybody, spray guns. It's like a giant, the whole city turns into a water gun battle. Super cool. And the backpacker area, believe it or not, has like the biggest version of that. There's a lot of there's a lot of locals there during that time, but there are some sketchy people and places on Khao San Road or Koh San Road in Bangkok, and it's not for the weary. I have never slept there. I've never stayed there because we had a kid, and I wouldn't subject him to that.
Yeah, you know, you're still trying to plan your spring break trip, and that's another one that I'm looking forward to this year. We're going to Baha Mar in Nassau, which is, you know, that's where me and my wife went for our honeymoon, and we liked it so much we went back the next year. We went there for our 10-year anniversary. This year will be 20 years, so we'll be going, you know, 6 months before our anniversary, but I think it's still kind of fitting that we're going to be there for 20 years taking the kids. And this will be our first big you know, trip that we go with another family. And, you know, my good buddy is going to meet us down there, and his two kids, which are a year older than his son's a year older and his daughter's a year older. So, but they've been friends. They were in school together for years until they went to a different school. I'm really interested in that and the dynamic and seeing how it goes as a double family trip. And you know that, like we talked about, when you bring in an outside element, you don't know how it's going to go, no matter how much you love them or get along. When you're traveling together, it can be different. Everybody has their own way of doing things. And then just the four kids together, like, how much do you let them go off on their own? How crazy does it get? All that kind of stuff. I'm looking forward to it. A bit apprehensive, but I think it'll be good.
We talk all the time about my Vegas adventures as a kid and how I was basically unsupervised all over Las Vegas on vacation with my brothers. And my brothers were older than me, so we got into some trouble that I wouldn't have gotten into by myself. But anyway, just the adventure of all of that and being able to give your kids that in this era where we're all, you know, helicopter parenting, or they're not as free as we were growing up. I just remember the spectacle, the adventure of being in Las Vegas, being somewhat free. Parents would check on us once in a while, but having that
Gambling
ability to
when
explore.
you're 5.
Yeah, but your kids are not 5. So like giving them that, right, to be in another
Yeah.
country at a place like Baha Mar that's so over the top with pools and water slides and the ocean. And it just feels like this huge place. I mean, that's the one thing I consistently figured out as an adult. When I would go back and revisit places that I had gone as a kid, everything seems so much smaller as an adult.
Yeah.
Like when you're a kid. So a place like Baha Mar just has to seem like just incredible. And I can imagine the adventure and trouble kids could get in there, but it would be a lot of fun to do it.
Yeah, and I mean, that was my favorite part of, like, you know, soccer tournaments and stuff growing up, when you stay in just like a Holiday Inn hotel type thing, maybe if you're lucky, a holodome. But we would stay in those, and you kind of just had free reign as long as you stayed in the hotel. You're with your teammates, and of course, there was like other soccer teams there, no, most notably girls soccer teams. So you'd like have that awkward middle school, like, oh, let's sit and talk and try to be cool and stuff, and it was just like a fun experience that you don't get otherwise. And I think it makes it easier. Like if it was just the two of them, you know, they could fight and one could get mad and walk off or whatever, where at least you have, you know, they each have a friend and stuff. You just feel more comfortable as a foursome going around doing things. They could even split off into two and two, and probably be okay. So I think it adds that a little more comfort level for it. So I'm excited for that. And then a little more freedom for us where they'll be entertained. And that's the other thing. Like when you go on trips, a lot of times the kids are, do this with me, do that with me. Come on, there's nobody else here to do it with, and I'm tired of my brother, I'm tired of my sister. And where this, at least you're like, hey, you know, we hooked this up that you guys would be hanging out together. Goodbye, go.
That's why we loved cruises so much the last couple of years, because we were traveling full time. But on the cruise ship, our daughter loves the kids club and loves to be in there and around other kids, and we could get a break from being with it, because 24/7 travel with a kid, it can be exhausting, and you really don't get that break. So that's, you know, it's neat to have that. And then they have the sense of meeting other people, you know, even if they're around their friends from home, just maybe they'll meet other kids from other places in the country. And nowadays, you know, Ellie, on our last trip, she met a couple girls at the pool and they chat on FaceTime, and they still have this sort of thing. So the world has gotten a little bit smaller in that way as well. I guess since this has sort of turned into a de facto family travel episode, I will state this
Sorry,
one piece
Han.
of advice. Well, I mean, I don't know very many people who have traveled with kids to as many places or for as much as I have. They do exist in the world. I'm not the only one. But here is my number one piece of
Thousands
advice
of
for family
hotels.
travel. I didn't say it. See, there was no exaggeration, but it is what it is, Mark. I'm not, accuse me of bragging. I'm not. But don't underestimate your kids. That's my
Yeah.
advice. Don't underestimate your kids. Your kids are capable of so much more. People worry, can I take my kids here? Can I take my kids there? Are they going to be able to handle this? Are they going to be able to handle that? Sure, you got to think about certain things in certain places, but for the most part, they are capable of so much. I've done, boats through jungles. My 7-year-old son was with us 9 days through the Mongolian countryside, riding horses over mountains and hiking through deserts and mountain lakes, and they
Sounds
can do
terrible.
it. Hiking up volcanoes in Guatemala. We were in Guatemala City at this volcano, and they had these horses. The locals had horses follow us up because they didn't believe that my son, who was 7 at the time, could not make it up the volcano. This is a very, very, it's an active volcano, like lava and stuff, very hard hike. There was about 4 other people on the thing with us, 2 American ladies. They ended up taking the horses about halfway up, but my son did not. He made it all the way up. Kids, don't underestimate them. Let them kind of show you what they are capable of, and you'll be amazed when you're traveling.
Yeah, I agree. I think, they amaze you every day, and that's what is kind of special, but especially when traveling, and you just have to read them. And I think the more you do it, the better you get. Like you said, as they're getting tired, don't push too hard unless you have to, build in days off, which I don't know that you're the best at doing, where you give them a day, like 2 days on, 1 day off. You got to build that in here and there too. But yeah, I mean, this is our first resort type vacation in a long time. Just like even just me and my wife, we haven't done it in forever. We haven't done where you just stay kind of on the spot, and we'll definitely go take the jitney into town, go to the fish fry, go downtown, walk around, go to the straw market, do all that stuff that we love to do too. But it'll be a lot of time spent just like at the pool, hanging out, doing all that type of stuff. And we haven't done that in so long that I'm kind of looking forward to it. I'm sure after 3 days, my skin will be crawling. I'll be like, why, let's go do something. Let's get out of here. But it'll be something unique. And, we do it up when we go up north to the cottage in Michigan, but we don't do it when we travel. And I don't think the kids have ever really fully experienced that either.
Hopefully, you'll get some of that world-class Bahamas service while you're there. Service with a smile, friendliest
Yes.
people on earth. So I hope you guys enjoyed our trip planning, talking about family travel, all that stuff. Hope that inspires you to bring your kids. That's the biggest gift that you can give them. Show them the world. I'm off to Hawaii to show my daughter all of the culture of Disney in Hawaii. So authentic, 100%.
Yeah. Good stuff.
So there you go. But we'll
Most
be back
Hawaiian
next week.
feel.
Hey, you got to do what you can whenever you can. So I'll be back next week to talk about it, some of the logistics, other stuff that you might be interested in Aulani, Oahu, all the stuff that we're doing. In the meantime, we do have a new 20-minute travel news show this week. So make sure to check it out on the channel on Wednesday. And then we will be back next week with more shows. Thanks so much for watching. Check us out on MTM Vegas as well. Talk to you next time.
Have a good week, everybody.
Thank you and enjoy your